All right, I think we can get going. All right, good morning, everyone. And our series continues with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Today, we've got a very exciting session. It's a persona-based use case sessions. So today we'll be seeing, we'll be wearing different hats and assuming different roles within the organization and using Copilot in different scenarios and trying to understand more about how Copilot works. All right. So thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. And before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Karim Abdelhamid. I'm a cloud solutions architect and developer. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. And we've been going through a journey together so far with Copilot, trying out different approaches in using Copilot and trying to understand more about how Copilot works and how we can use it in different um, situations and in different use cases in order to be able to build our skills and build our knowledge in Microsoft 365 Copilot. Right. So today we'll just be going quickly on the introduction of Microsoft 365 Copilot as an overview. Then we'll be exploring some possibilities with Copilot, other ways that we can optimize and extend Microsoft 365 Copilot, if it's possible to use it outside of Microsoft 365. How can we extend its capabilities to go above and beyond a normal chat pane that we're creating content through? And then finally, we'll be going through a lot of persona-based use cases. And what that means is we'll be assuming different roles within the organization, and we'll have some real life scenarios or simulations that we're going to go through, and we're going to go through them assuming different roles and different positions. And then we'll be using Copilot in order to overcome some of the barriers that people in those roles and those responsibilities might face. Right. Yeah, let's watch this quick video on how Copilot works. Right. So this is a very important illustration over here. So what this video is trying to show us is how our data is being put into the context of the responses that are generated by Copilot. And the way that is happening is we've got all of these different components. We've got the Microsoft 365 applications, Microsoft Graph, as well as the large language model, which is the base model of Copilot. So once I start typing a prompt and I send it to Copilot, Copilot doesn't begin generating the response right away. Instead, it sends the prompt, or it puts the prompt in the context of Microsoft Graph, and that's what we call grounding, so that it's more relevant and it's more enhanced than my initial prompt. So it's trying to improve my prompt for me before sending it to the large language model, basically. And what that does is it puts my data into context. It adds relevancy to my data through grounding the prompt on this data. And all of this data that's being used, it's the data that's mapped out on Microsoft Graph. So then once the prompt has been grounded and pre-processed, it gets sent to the large language model for processing. And then once the response is generated, it gets sent back to Microsoft Graph for some post-processing, which makes sure that there isn't any violations, any policies that are being breached for safety and responsible AI measures, and puts the data in context again within the generated response, and then shows or displays the response for me on the Microsoft 365 application. All right. So this is a very useful illustration to be able to understand how is my data being moved, how is my data being utilized within the Copilot system, so that Copilot is able to generate these highly relevant responses that we get from Copilot, right? Have we got any questions on that last bit on how the Copilot system functions? All right, great. Okay, so what we said was, so there are three main components within the Copilot system. So we've got the large language model, which is the base model, the AI model that's able to generate response based on natural language processing. So it receives a prompt from the user, and then based on the huge amounts of data it has been trained on, it starts generating the response to that specific prompt. And we've got Microsoft Graph that has, so we've said before that we've got the organization's tenant. Each organization has a tenant, and that tenant is its box of resources. In this box, we've got all the users, all the email communications, all the Teams chat conversations that's happening, the emails, the meetings. So all of these different components reside within the tenant. And all of these different relationships within Microsoft Graph over here, so all of these different relationships are mapped onto Microsoft Graph. So within Microsoft 365 and using Microsoft Graph, which is this intricate web of relationships, now apply the large language model capabilities on top of these intricate relationships, and what you get is a highly functional assistant that can generate highly relevant content that's deeply related within your Microsoft 365 user data. Okay. Right. Any questions before we head into some demos? All right. Yeah, just as a, yeah, sorry. Just as a quick refresher, let's head on to Office. Right. So within my Microsoft 365 subscription, and thinking about the Copilot subscription or the Copilot add-on license, so it's an add-on license, it requires a base license. So what that means is I first need to get a Microsoft 365 user subscription, and then add on top of that a Copilot subscription. Once that is done and that Copilot license is added on to my user subscription, I'll start seeing Copilot icons on most of the Microsoft 365 applications. So going into the homepage, I'll see the Copilot chat pane. And this is like a central hub where I can gather all different informations from different applications as well. So I can ask it to summarize for me all my communications, meetings, Teams chats, emails from the last week regarding a certain topic. And through just one interface, it'll be able to map it out and ground it through Microsoft Graph and generate that content that I'm trying to extract from my Microsoft 365 subscription. For example, I can ask it to help me prepare for a certain meeting, and because it has access to my calendar, it's able to go to that meeting and look at its agenda, look at the email conversation that's attached to that meeting invitation, and start giving me insights on how I can prepare for that. So let's try this prompt. Actually, help me prepare for a meeting that I have with Ayman called Kareem and Ayman Sync on Progress. Right, so now it's retrieving the relevant information for me, things like time and date. We got the agenda, the talking points that's on the meeting. So we got a welcome meeting objectives, progress updates, and a discussion related to training customization and sector-specific adjustments. It also referenced multiple emails between me and Ayman that mentioned the same topics that are to be discussed within this meeting. Okay, so I can use Copilot to help me prepare for it, and I can, whenever we use Copilot, we always see that once I type in a specific prompt and I receive the response, I always see follow-up prompts that I can use to keep the conversation going. And I usually find these very, very helpful. So very good conversation starter and a way to keep the conversation going with Copilot. When you're not sure what you'd like to do next, looking at the suggestions usually sparks up some creativity. All right, so I can see here, sure, I've got some tasks assigned to me. I would like to look into details on those tasks. Okay, great. So these tasks have been retrieved from Planner. So on Planner, I've got, let's quickly look into Planner. Yeah, so Planner is an application that allows team members to assign tasks to each other and keep track of the progress. So when I ask Copilot about my tasks, it has retrieved for me this one over here, because this is the one related to IT track curriculum. And then it brings up all of the details of the task and the who was it assigned by, when is the due date, all of these information. Right, so that was the Copilot chat pane within the Office 365 home interface. Now, getting on to Teams.
Karim, in the previous window, you have an option that it was work and web when you were in the Copilot interface. If you want to actually ask for questions that involve both work documents from your work Microsoft 365 environment, plus maybe comparison from web, can you actually do queries involving both type of data?
Okay, so actually through here, if I mention to Copilot, so if I would like to say, for example, let's say I would like to develop a plan for this first task over here to develop the IT track curriculum, develop a plan for my first task, develop IT track curriculum. So here I'm going to generate a work-related response, right? I'm going to generate a response that's related to my task over here. But let's say I would like to include also web-based content or content from the web. Include best practices, the web in developing the track curriculums. So here I specifically mentioned to Copilot that I need Copilot to include some web-based results as well in its way of generating the response for me. And we can see here that it has included some web-based content. For those two interfaces here, work and web. So web over here is more like this Copilot over here. So it's completely web-based. If I'm trying to have a conversation that's strictly based on the context of data that exists on the web, then this is what I'd be using. But regarding mixing work content and using some web-based content, I can still do that through the work interface. So this is like going to Copilot website. Over here, and this is the Copilot website, and I start messaging Copilot and sending prompts, sending images, generating those images away from my Microsoft 365 subscription. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Karim, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So yeah, I can still use Copilot and I can still gain insights from the web and ground it back on my work data using the same Copilot interface that I've been using. It's just a matter of when I'm not dealing with work-related content, I'm just generating content. I'm having a conversation with Copilot that's not related, or I don't want it to reference to me things from my email inbox or my meeting invitations or my recording meetings or Teams chat conversations. In that case, I'll be using the web interface. Okay. All right. So we're done with Planner here. Oh. Okay, so within my Teams chat as well, I can see a Copilot chat over here, and I can open that and start asking questions. And also I can use that as a central hub of extracting all of my insights in one place. So we shouldn't think about Copilot in different applications as different Copilot agents. It's still the same agent. It knows, it has context. It can, so all of the Copilot agents have the same knowledge basically. So whether I'm using Teams or whether I'm using Outlook, I'm still using the same Copilot agent. So my content or my data, my user data, is still being used in the same context with Copilot. So within Teams over here, I can ask questions about my meetings. I can ask questions about my emails, the latest emails that I've had, or the latest files that people have shared with me. So I can still do that even though I'm in the Teams Copilot chat. Okay, so yeah, so we'll see in just a minute once we get to the use cases how we can consolidate all of my communications through Teams. I don't want to spoil that just yet, but let's say we've got this chat conversation between my colleague and I would like to extract some insights on it or even draft a response. So there are multiple ways I can do that. I can say, I can start typing. I can start typing and then use rewrite with Copilot. And I can say rewrite and adjust, make it longer. So I just started with a simple sentence and now I'm asking Copilot to expand on it and to just adjust the tone of it and to make it longer, make it shorter. Let's say I'd like to make it more casual. Longer again. There we go. If I'm happy with that, I'll replace it and then I can send it or not. Another way is to ask Copilot to draft a response. Right. So just for some context, this conversation is between Fadi and we were discussing AI training in public sector and how ready are the individuals within the public sector in Qatar to start using AI tools and how can we research. Of course, all of this is a dummy conversation, but it could very well be a real one. So none of the data you see here is actual data of anyone. It's just for demo purposes, but the idea is there, and it could be a real case where we're discussing how can we create training programs for the public sector, and we discussed that we need to start researching different sectors within the public sector in Qatar, and see where is the highest skills gap and where's the highest potential in growing. So that could be our starting point. And I asked here Copilot to draft a response to Fadi, giving him an update of my research that the medical field is the most promising starting point for our journey, for our training program. And I'm going to ask Copilot to create that for me. So then I can take that and just copy paste it into the chat window and send it straight away. So it seems that immediately is the most promising. Let's focus on predictive analytics. So it added some context on ways we can improve it as well. That's great. Right. Then let's say me and Fadi got into a meeting and we started discussing more on how can we approach this project? How can we approach creating this training program? Now, of course, it's for demo purposes. That's why you see here that the meeting is only 4 minutes and a half long, which has never happened, I think, in the history of meetings. So we've got this meeting over here, and because Fadi and I use Copilot and we recorded the session and the session was being transcribed, that means that Copilot is able to relate to that transcription or use that transcription in its content generation. So when I ask questions to Copilot about this meeting, what Copilot will do is, as we saw in the Copilot system, it will take my prompt, do some pre-processing using the meeting transcription, then send the prompt to the large language model, then receive the response and do some post-processing again within the context of my meeting and any other components within my Microsoft 365 subscription that could be related to this meeting, such as this Teams conversation or the email thread that's between us. So all of these things will be used in enhancing the content that's being generated. And that is possible because of the transcription of the meeting, which makes Copilot able to use that transcription for the analysis purposes that we intend. So I can say here, what was the last point that Fadi mentioned? And it knows straight away that I'm referring to the meeting, so it's going to go to the meeting and so it's going to go to the meeting transcription and see what Fadi mentioned and what was the last point that Fadi got. So we can see here that it says Ramadan Kareem, and it skipped that actually and went to the actual juice, the actual point that matters with the conversation aside from the small talk. So it says the last point that Fadi mentioned was that they would get started on the outline for the training framework and share it with Kareem by the end of the day. I can start saying like what were the action items on me. Again, I can keep the conversation going back and forth. So we can see here that the action items from this meeting are draft an outline for the training framework, align with the digital agenda, review the outline, then reconnect back with Fadi. So I can use my personal assistant, which is Copilot. I can use that to help me prepare and increase my productivity in a very noticeable amount. Right, any questions? Okay, great. Oh, I'm in the Teams apps. All right, heading on to probably the most used application when it comes to Copilot. And I think that makes sense because of the amount of time that people spend on their emails and going through threads of emails and going through trying to understand and summarize and respond or draft responses by email. So Copilot on Outlook is very widely used. So some of the functionalities of Copilot within Outlook, and again, we always say some of the functionalities because throughout these sessions, we've always been recommending to try things out for yourself. So that's what we would recommend as a user. Go on to Copilot, try to test it out, see if you can break it, see if you can make it reach its limits, and that will make you more capable of recognizing the scenarios later on of saying, yeah, I know what I need to do. I can use Copilot to help me do it. So that instinct of building that work habit, because working with AI does take building habits. So that habit will be built by using and trying out Copilot so that you'll gain the instinct of recognizing situations where you can use Copilot and saying, yeah, I'll make Copilot do that for me. So within an email thread, let's say I've got this long email thread. So this is, again, it's between me and Fadi. It's a conversation between us. And it's about the same topic of Qatar's digital agenda 2030 and the AI skills gap in the public sector. So I can come over here and click summary by Copilot. Now, what that will do is it will give me a very brief summary on the main ideas of the email thread. So we can see that we discussed the integration of AI in Qatar's public services. Excuse me. We agreed to analyze case studies of AI, identify skills gap and challenges, research AI in public services, and we planned the meeting for next week. All right, but let's say I would like to have a specific summary with using Copilot. So I want Copilot to summarize this email thread, but focus on objectives and highlight action items. And then I can say include a list of proposed next steps for this discussion. So here I'm using a more effective prompt than just summarize this email thread. I want Copilot to actually include the objectives, the main objectives within this. Excuse me. The main objectives within this email thread and highlight the action items that need to be done. And then I requested that I expect there to be a list of proposed next steps for this discussion to keep the conversation going. Has been generated. So here we've got the main objectives of the email thread, and we've got so here we've got AI's role in Qatar's digital transformation, AI adoption and upskilling, some different action items. And who's responsible? That's outlined. So both of us will pick a sector to research, identify the skills gap, and then compare notes. So proposed next steps, we can do sector research, which is already in the action items. Then we'll do some documentation review and schedule a meeting. So that's great. I'm now diving deeper into the data that I have. I now have the capability to jump in and have a much deeper conversation with Copilot and spark that creativity of mine to be able to increase the efficiency, and meanwhile, it's also increasing the collaboration and communication between team members and each other, because by me utilizing Copilot, I'm now able to have a much deeper conversation with Fadi, and we're able to brainstorm on multiple ideas together. So I can also draft a response, same way as I can do it on Teams. So let's say I'd like to request information, and it has specified the tone to be politely. Excuse me. Request information from Fadi, let's say about the latest market trends within Qatar's public sector, let's say to gauge the interest in utilizing AI tools for productivity. So really, we want to test the waters out for an interest in the technology within the market. So I know that Fadi is much more knowledgeable than I am, so I would like to request some of these information. And so we can see here, thank you for your insightful thoughts on AI adoption. Okay, I was wondering if you could share some information about the latest market trends within Qatar's public sector. Okay, that's great. So now it's requesting the information, and it's adding also some enrichment to the draft that it's creating. Your perspective on this would be invaluable as we continue to explore how AI can truly transform public sector. Now, I can also make it shorter, make it longer. I can change the tone if it seems more a bit too formal for a conversation between colleagues. So I make it sound more casual. We can see it lost a bit of the format of the email that it's using. Let's try it. The last one, make it like a poem. I never knew why someone would use that. All right, let's see. That should be fun. Hey, Fadi, thanks for sharing thoughts on AI. Always caring. Copilot, tools so grand, yet skills we need to truly understand. That's very good. I would say that's very good. What does everyone think? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone would be using this functionality ever, but if you decide to do it, it's a fun way to change things up in the office a bit, right? Okay, if I'm happy with that, I'm gonna keep it. If not, then I can just regenerate it. Let's not send that. All right, so scheduling meetings as well, I can do that with Copilot. So instead of manually sending a meeting invitation and deciding on a title on the meeting and creating the meeting agenda, etc., I can just put a specific email in context. So let's say this email has a lot of talking points that we need to take to a one-on-one, for example. So I can go to that email and click schedule with Copilot. So that's the little button at the top here, if anyone missed it. And we can see I've got the title specified, a proposed time, and the talking points, the meeting agenda, and a summary of the conversation between Fadi and I so far. So I can just hit send and it's through. Okay, let's do that. All right, any questions so far? We're just going quickly over the main functionalities. Are there any questions on those? Okay, see thumbs up coming in, that's great. All right, we're not going to go through all of the other applications because we'll see a lot of different use cases when we get to the persona-based use cases. Okay, so as we'll see today with the real-life scenarios, with the simulations that we're going to have, and as we can recognize from the different capabilities and functionalities of Copilot, the Copilot is not meant to be for a specific group of individuals within an organization. It's not meant for certain people that have certain specializations or certain responsibilities within an organization. Copilot is actually meant to be for every single user within the organization. So it can be someone from the help desk helping customers with their questions as they come in. Those individuals can rely on Copilot. Someone at the customer service center, helping customers with their support, with their queries. They can use Copilot to help increase their productivity and efficiency and increase overall customer satisfaction. Leaders, strategists, people who are in executive positions, people who are in executive positions are able to consolidate all of the communications that are happening. And of course, they would be a lot. Someone who is involved in multiple projects and communicating with multiple parties, they can definitely rely on Copilot to be able to consolidate or extract meaningful insights without missing anything, any of the communications, without missing any updates. So using Copilot on the regular would help them maintain that integrity of being always up to date. IT specialists, sales specialists, people who are in human resources, recruitment teams. We'll see later on how we can compare between different resumes, for example, and use that as a way of evaluating potential candidates for a certain position that I have. So it's fairly easy to see that Copilot is not just for a specific group of individuals, but rather it's for everyone within the organization. It is meant to empower every single user within the organization to be able to increase productivity and efficiency throughout the whole organization. Okay. Right. Now, before getting into our use cases for today, our persona-based use cases, let's go over through some. Sorry, just 1 second. Showing. Right. So we're going to review some of the best practices of creating effective prompts. And as a general guideline, we always want to include within our prompt a goal. So what is it that I'm trying to achieve from Copilot? And that is the main ask, the main action that I'd like Copilot to do. So draft a response, generate a report, summarize this email, etc., etc. And then I should follow up with a context. So I should give Copilot some background information regarding my ask. Why is it that I'm asking about this? What is it related to? And in general, just different background information that Copilot can use as context to ground my prompt even more, if we remember from the video that we saw earlier. So all of this context will be used to enhance my prompt and to enhance the post-processing processes as well. Okay, but as different best practices, so yeah, we mentioned including a goal, which is the main ask, providing Copilot with some context, then outlining a source of information, so I can point to a specific person and say, what did this specific person have to say in the meeting, or outline an important section where all the information that I'm looking for should be extracted from. For example, I want to summarize the main points that have been discussed in the objectives section. So I'm outlining or defining a specific source of information for Copilot to generate from. And finally, I should include in my prompt an expectation section. So what is it that I expect from Copilot? If there's a specific element that I expect it to include, for example, I can say include a recommendation section in the end of the report, or I can say include a suggested timeline or propose some next steps. or my expectations could be the format of the output that I'm going to receive from Copilot. So for example, I can say, format the response in the format of a table or a list, etc., etc. So these are the main components I should use within my prompt. Now, as best practices of creating the prompt, I should always provide a clear and concise prompts. So I should always steer away from ambiguity. If I'm reviewing my prompt and I feel like something might have different meanings, or it's not clear in this context what I'm trying to say to Copilot, sorry, then I should always try to make it more clear and more concise for Copilot and to eliminate ambiguity altogether, right? Next, something we call trust but verify, and that means that, and I always get asked this, how accurate is the content generated by Copilot? Well, in most scenarios, if we can assume that the data that exists, so whatever it is, the email communications that are happening, the conversations that are happening on Teams, the different Word documents or Office documents that are coming back and forth that are being shared with us. So if all of these data are accurate, and adding an assumption that the prompts that I'm using with Copilot, these prompts are accurate as well. In that case, I can safely assume that the content that's being generated by Copilot is going to be highly accurate, right? But that never means when using artificial intelligence that you should trust the generated content blindly. So, I will say maybe just take a quick look on the email before you hit send. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't want Copilot to generate the draft right away, and you just took a quick look and sent it. Yeah, do we have a question here? Oh, okay. So yeah, you always want to review the content before sending it, before using it, before utilizing it. You can trust that Copilot is highly accurate, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be reviewing it, and a human being should be in the loop reviewing the content. Sorry, Abdul Qadir, your mute is unmuted. Your mic is unmuted. Just as a heads up. All right, great. Also provide regular feedback. This one is actually quite important, and I would like to point out that there's a whole team in Microsoft dedicated to developing Copilot and listening to user feedback. So if yeah, no worries. I'm just giving your attention to it. No problem. So there's a whole team dedicated to developing and improving Copilot. So whenever you're using Copilot and you're asked to provide feedback, and there's some piece of functionality that you feel like it should be there, or that a lot of people will benefit from it, then you should definitely provide that. Sorry. You should definitely provide that as part of your feedback, so that and we've been seeing, so maybe in a bit more than 2 years, we've been seeing some huge developments that are happening with Copilot, and it has been nothing short of phenomenal with the amount of development. So yes, you should always provide regular feedback to Copilot. Avoiding over-reliance, that's kind of an important one. So the technology is not here to replace. The technology is here to complement, to enhance. So I wouldn't want to be, so for example, in the human resources example, someone who's working in recruitment, you shouldn't over-rely on Copilot in making all the recruitment decisions. Sure, you can just reference to Copilot the job description and all the resumes that you've gotten and ask Copilot to choose the perfect candidate. But that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't be using Copilot as a replacement, but you should be using it as a starting point, as a way to supplement your daily tasks, as a way to enhance your productivity and efficiency, right? unlocking your creativity. As with working with AI in general, it's a bit of a mix between technology and art, and we'll see that in dealing with Copilot, and you'll see it for yourselves once you start testing it out. So really try to get creative with Copilot as much as you can, and you will be amazed by the results. Prioritizing privacy and security. We mentioned that there is the Microsoft tenant for each organization, and your data does not leave that tenant. When we go back to the, if we go back to the video, let me just turn off the sound over here. Yeah. Right. Okay. So looking at this model, you will see that none of the data over here gets taken to the large language model, which is the OpenAI instance that processes the information. And in fact, I've got a better illustration over here. That's the one. Okay, so through this illustration, we can better see what is happening with the data that's being used. Okay, so let's follow it together here. So I'm using Copilot. I sent a prompt, then that prompt is being sent to Microsoft Graph for what we call data grounding, right? So my data is being used for context and the prompt is being enhanced and then returned back to Copilot, which now sends the modified prompt to the large language model. Now the data is not, so the file itself has not been sent anywhere, but the modified prompt has been put in context, enhanced, and then sent to the large language model, which is an Azure OpenAI instance. And it's fully maintained by Microsoft. No one has access to the data or the model that resides on this instance. Now, the large language model processes through natural language processing and returns back through Copilot to Microsoft Graph for compliance and purview. And purview is actually the policy and compliance solution from Microsoft. And this is where post-processing is happening. After the post-processing is done, then the response is returned back to the user. Okay, so we can see here that in terms of security, it's 100% secured. We never say 100% secured in cybersecurity, but it's pretty much as secured as it can be. It's private, no data leaves the tenant. Whatever prompts go for processing on an Azure OpenAI instance, it's fully maintained by Microsoft. No one has access to the data or the base models that reside on this instance. And your files and documents do not leave your Microsoft tenant, okay? That being said, and considering the responsible AI framework of Microsoft, which stresses principles of transparency, of privacy, of security, all of that being said, when using confidential or sensitive information with Copilot, you want to practice caution. You want to be that bit extra careful with when using any confidential or sensitive data with Copilot. Okay, so you can be assured that your data is private, your data is secured, the solution that you're using, you know exactly what's happening to your data at all times. With that being said as well, we always need to practice caution when dealing with sensitive information. Okay. All right, so these are the components of the prompts that we should include. And as we mentioned, we've got the goal. So what is it that I'm trying to achieve? I provide some context, some background information. Why do I need it? What is this report for? How is it going to be used? How can we, how should it sound, for example? Defining a specific source of information so I can reference other documents within Microsoft 365 applications. If the document is on my OneDrive or SharePoint, or a person can be my source of information or a specific email thread, I can identify that as well to be my source. Then I can include some expectations. Are there specific points that I should include within my response, or that I expect to include? Is there a specific format for my prompt for the response that I should receive? Should I receive it in a specific format? So all of these should be outlined in the expectations over here. Right, as we mentioned, working with AI is both art and science. So you can get creative with it as much as you'd like, and try to take it to its limits. And I think you'll be surprised of how far the capabilities go if you do that. But it's a solution to alleviate workload. So it's a way to offload a lot of the time-consuming tasks so that individuals can focus on what really matters, working as a team, communicating, and creating innovations and developing the organization as a whole. So it does empower teams, and it promotes communication, promotes collaboration within an organization. So it does take building new working habits, working with AI, and I've personally felt it because when we started working with Copilot, we were asked to test it during its early releases at my time at Microsoft, and I was using it just because we were asked to provide feedback on it, and that was the main purpose. I didn't see my efficiency or productivity being hurt that much that I need to go to Copilot. But once I started using Copilot a bit more, I was able to quickly figure out that I can use this. I can use it daily. And the more I started using it in drafting emails, in generating ideas with Copilot, I started seeing and building the habit of working with Copilot. And always the first thought that comes to me when I see a task that can be offloaded is using Copilot for it. So it does take a bit of building habits. Right, so these are some ways we can extend Microsoft 365 Copilot capabilities. I'm not going to go through them in too technical details, but we've got what's called graph connectors. So these connectors allow us to use other sources. So sources could be from other clouds, Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services, or even third-party solutions. And we can use those repositories of data or databases, for example, if it's a CRM or an ERP, and we can use the graph connectors that are existing from Microsoft to map out the data from these external sources so that they become mapped out onto Microsoft Graph. And after they get mapped onto Microsoft Graph, we can use the Copilot system to include this data that's coming from an external source, but now is mapped onto Graph. So now Copilot can use this data as a way to ground its prompts and use it for context. And I can ask questions about this data basically through Copilot by integrating with a graph connector. Declarative copilots, and so these are custom-built copilots. So yes, organizations can build their own Copilot agent and train it on their own data. If it's, for example, an organization that works in very specific field, for example, it's a law firm, a corporate law firm within a specific country, and it needs Copilot to be an expert in cases and in laws of that country. In that case, the organization can use Copilot Studio, which is the platform where they can create and customize their own Copilots. And through that, they'll have their own custom-built Copilot agent. API plugins. Now, API plugins, they're similar to graph connectors, but they're not as permanent. So with API plugins, we're just through Copilot, we're making API calls to other sources of data that are outside my Microsoft 365 tenant, but it's a per call functionality rather than having all the data mapped out onto Graph using the connectors. It's just a single API call that goes to the external data source, extracts the information and comes back with that specific response. Teams message extensions. I can extend messages in Teams. So for example, over here, if we're, let me get the Teams chat. So within Teams chat, I can add a functionality if we're working in customer support or technical support center, for example. I can add a button here that references support cases from Dynamics 365, for example. So I can extend the Teams functionalities so that I can add a maybe a button here that says reference case, and then type the case number and search it. And what I'll be doing within Teams is I'm searching the Dynamics 365 database, but I'm doing that through the Teams interface without leaving the application. Right. Any questions? All right, great. Right. So now let's jump on to some of our use cases for today. Now this all of these use cases, because I doubt that we'll be able to go through all of them, but so this is the so all of these use cases are part of the module on Microsoft Learn, Empower Your Workforce with Microsoft 365 Copilot use cases. So that's the name of the training module. And you see here, there are executives use cases, sales use cases, IT, marketing, sales, finance, HR, operations, and there's a little bonus challenge use case at the end. So I'll leave the link in the chat. I recommend everyone, if you'd like to follow through as we're going through the use cases. We're not going to be going through all of them, but if you still like to follow through, this is where I'm getting the use cases and the scenarios. And I also recommend trying it out on your own. So go on to the training module and have a look at the use cases and try to envision that you're in this situation and see how you can use different prompts in order to overcome the challenges in the use cases. Okay. All right. Before we do that, just give me 1 second. It seems I have a power issue. Just plug in the other charger so that we're good to go. All right, we are golden. Right, okay. So with the first use case that we have over here, so we are someone in an executive position and we're involved in multiple projects, and we have a lot of communications that are happening on all of our communication channels. So we're getting a lot of Teams chats. We're in different meetings. We have different email threads that are coming from different parties, and it's becoming a lot for me to track. And I would like to get a full-on update on the latest happenings within my space. So I'd like to use Copilot to extract all of these informations, and instead of me going to different applications and trying to catch up on what's happening, I'm going to use Copilot here to consolidate this information for me. So now I'm going to use the sample prompt that's over here. I'm going to paste that here. So it says, summarize all my emails, meetings, and chats over the past. Now here we've got a time-bound prompt over the past 30 days related to a topic of my choice. So I'm going to remove the placeholder and replace that with AI training. And I might not be interested in the last 30 days. Maybe I want the last 10 days of related content. But I think all of the, yeah, sure. So I'm using Copilot sort of as a as a quick way of getting to know the latest things that are happening within MySpace. So it has went to my emails. It has summarized for me the latest updates on the different emails that I have that are related to this specific topic. I can choose any topic that I like. So for example, if I'm involved in multiple projects, I can do one project at a time and get the latest updates on that project. So we've got a summary of the emails and the different meetings that I was part of and the Teams chat conversations that I took part in, right? So now I've got all of this information that's consolidated into one interface. Now I have easy access and I can recognize easily, or I can dive deeper into this by using some of the suggested prompts over here. So I can say provide more details on the adoption discussion. And then it will refer back to that email and start refer back to the topic, sorry, not the email, and start extracting insights from the different components that are related to that topic. Okay, so we've got this one here, so that's done. Let's create a speech using Copilot. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come to Words. All right, so in this example, we're the CFO of Fabricam, and we've got the income statement for the fiscal year. So let's get into that. I think that would be, is it in finance? No. Okay. Income statement. Where does it say income statement? Okay. Fabricam. Huh. That is a bit weird. It's not in finance, it's in sales. No. Okay, so I've got this over here. Okay, never mind. I'll just download it again and add it to my files. Right, new. There we go. There we go. So we've got this. Sorry, that took a bit longer than expected. So we've got this Word document that has an income statement of the fiscal year in the format of a table. So here we've got the different revenues of last year, cloud computing, artificial intelligence. So they're subdivided into sections as well. We've got the cost of goods sold, gross profit, operating expenses. So it's full income statement, okay, of the fiscal year. So let's say I'm the CFO of Fabricam, and now I'd like to have host a meeting for the stakeholders and give them an update or give them a summary of all this income statement table. And I would like to use Copilot for that. So in that case, I'll go to Copilot and say, I'll just paste this sample prompt over here. Write a speech for the Fabricam stakeholders that summarizes the results of the company's 2023 income statement found in the attached file. So now what I need to do, and if you remember, I just need to attach or reference the file of the income statement over here onto this new document. And a few ways I can do that. First is I can click / or I can click the paperclip icon, and I'll see the types of files or components that I can reference to Copilot. And in Word, that includes, so Copilot in Word, I can reference PowerPoint, Word documents, emails, or meetings. Okay, so in this case, I would like to reference my income statement over here and just hit enter. Okay, great. So now it has created the statement. We can see that what was here in the format of a table now has become written as a speech. So it's able to identify that cloud computing sales or revenue rather, sorry, from last year is equal to this amount, and this year it's equal to this amount. So now it's comparing all of these different numbers. So by cloud computing, artificial intelligence segments, which generated 35 million and 22 million, which is cloud computing and artificial intelligence. And again, we should trust but verify. So we need to take a look and ensure that these values are accurate and they do accurately reflect the values on the income statement. But overall, I've got the speech ready in a few seconds. If I'd like to modify it, for example, sure, make it sound more formal. Include, let's say I want to include a section at the end that highlights the successes that this income statement reflects. Let's say I'd like to increase team morale and I'd like to assure our stakeholders that we're doing well. So I'll ask Copilot to include a section at the end highlighting the different successes. So we can see here the section has been added, revenue growth, segment contributions, increased gross profit. So now it's translating those numbers into actual meaning, into its original meaning. So what do the numbers, increase in numbers mean? It means more success for the organization. Right, so I've got my speech now ready for me. Let's say I'm happy with it, I'm gonna keep it. I can also use the editor pane and start, taking the suggestions on clarity, etc., and just overall enhance my speech. But let's say I'm happy with it and I'd like to let's say now I'd like to present these findings of the income statement as a PowerPoint presentation. So within PowerPoint, you can use Copilot to generate presentations either from blank or using a specific template. So in this case, I'm going to use a template which has all our logos, the specific title slides and section slides, specific font colors to be used, etc., etc. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to Copilot and say replace with a new presentation, and I'm going to say create a presentation about, and then I'm not going to reference the income statement because it might be too big of a jump to jump from a table of revenue or table of income to a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to use the speech actually to be the blueprint for my PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to do that and I'll hit generate. Now we can see that it's enhancing my prompt by going into the reference document and putting my prompt into context, then sending it to the large language model, then receiving the response for the outline of the presentation. We can see here that we've got 16 slides and the maximum for Copilot within PowerPoint is 40 slides, but 16 is plenty for me. Right, so right now it's populating the PowerPoint slides for me with titles, with talking points. It's using stock images as well, and it's still following the same template that I'm using. All right, so it's taking a minute, and there we go. So we can see the different slides. We can see a a nice little section. What's that? Let me see. Strong net income. So I think that's the successes, celebrating the successes, and strong net income was one of the successes. Okay, so I've got my presentation ready, and it has all the slide transitions and animations incorporated within it. So all it needs is some review. If I'm not happy with a specific design of a slide, I can use the other AI-based tool, which is Designer, to change the design of the slides. Or I can ask Copilot to recreate it all together and just specify which way I would like to recreate it. So let's say I want to keep it with the same feel of the other slides. So I'm gonna do that. I can ask Copilot to add another slide with specific talking points with a specific image. I can generate images and add that to it, but we're not gonna dwell too much on it. All right, so we've created a speech and we've created a slideshow. So we saw how we can transform from a very we saw how we can jump from a very raw set of data, which is a table of income within a Word document, which could be extracted from Excel or any other database system. And then we use that to create a speech to address the stakeholders, and using the insights from the speech as blueprint, we then created the PowerPoint presentation, which can be presented to the team after some reviewing and editing to it, right? So these use cases were regarding the executive position use cases. Do we have any questions on these? Okay, all good. Can we get a few thumbs up in chat just to make sure we don't lose anyone? How's everyone feeling? Good. Okay, great. Good to see it. There we go. Love to see the thumbs up. All right. Now jumping on to the next. So now we're taking off the hat of the executive or the CFO or the manager, and we're going into a sales role. So now we're a sales manager. So putting on the hat of a sales manager. Now we're going to see how we can create a market research report using Copilot in Loop. Now Loop is one of the underrated applications of Microsoft 365. It's actually a great collaboration application that can be used by teams to generate ideas collectively as a team and work on different projects and work on different scenarios and ideas. So here, let's say I would like to, we're in the automotive industry, and we're trying to see if, we're in the plastic manufacturing industry, and we're trying to see if we should enter the automotive industry as plastic manufacturers. And we would like to create a market research report before we enter that market or before we take the decision within that market. So in this scenario, we are the vice president of sales in Van Arsdale, which is a plastic manufacturer, and we're trying to see if we can enter the automotive industry. So I'm not even going to attempt to create this prompt, but within Loop, you can create workspaces, and within each workspace, you can have different pages. So if we're working on multiple projects, for example, we can divide the workspaces by project, and within each project, we can have a page for the latest updates where everyone can add in their input, a place for announcing successes, a place for brainstorming ideas, for example, and we can collaborate on these changes in real time in Loop. So I'm going to use this blank page over here and paste this sample prompt. So let's read it together. As the VP for sales for an OEM in the plastics manufacturing industry, please research the market for plastic components in the automotive industry. So we're trying to gauge if there's a need for plastic manufacturing in the automotive industry, right? Provide information on target audience, market size, competition, trends, regulations, and distribution channels. So here we're not just outlining what we'd like to achieve, but also what we should expect to be included within the response. So let's hit generate. Now it's going to generate the content and display it for me. All right, so let's see what we got here. All right, so we got a market research report, plastic components in the automotive industry. So we've got the target audience, tier 2 suppliers, tier 1 suppliers, etc. The market value. Ooh, that's a large market. A list of the competitors that we've got in this scenario, different trends in the market, regulations that govern this market. Sorry. Okay, so we've got all of these different components, and now it's ready for us to collaborate on as a team, and we can even do some modifications. So I'd like to go over here and use Copilot. So draft page content, and I want to ask Copilot to rewrite the report by placing the information in a table. So now I don't think it's going to delete the first bits. It's just going to add the information as a title, as a table, sorry, not as a title. All right, so here we've got the different sections and it's in a title format. Now let's say I would like to add a recommendation section in the end. Where is it? There we go. We can see here by clicking the different suggestions over here, different categories of prompts. We can see the create prompt, such as draft an agenda for a meeting, brainstorming ways to boost team morale, identifying a blueprint, how to conduct a sales meeting, or describe something. So we're not going to use any. So you can use these as starting points for generating your prompts. So let's say add a recommendation section to the end of the report, whether we should move into the market or not. And hit generate, and now it's going to analyze the data that it has gathered and include a recommendation section on what should we do about this market. So it is recommended to move into the plastic components market in the automotive industry. And what are the key factors supporting this recommendation? So it's also backing up its argument with evidence and facts. Of course, again, we trust but verify. So we need to take these factors into consideration, that's for sure. But we shouldn't make such an important decision based on a recommendation from Copilot, right? Right, so we've created this market research report, and now team members can work on it together. They can create more drafts of it, or create deeper reports, or take this report as a blueprint and then start doing further analysis based on it, and so on and so forth. Okay, next would be comparing. All right, so as someone in sales, I have received multiple agreements from different suppliers. So I say I've got Contoso over here, I've got Tailwind, got Wide World Traders. So I've got these 3 agreements. They all have different terms, different late fees, early payment discounts, the minimum order amount, maximum order amount. So they've pretty much got the same sections, but with different terms. Now, I'd like to analyze these agreements to see which one of them would be the most favorable for my organization, and even expand on how can I negotiate better agreements with each supplier? So I'm going to use this sample prompt over here. I'll say I'm the sales manager for this company, a supplier of various grocery and beverage products. So now I'm giving Copilot some context as well. I'd like to create a report that compares the supply agreements for 3 suppliers, provide a recommendation on contract. So this is what I'm expecting, a recommendation on contract renewals that can provide me with more favorable terms. And I'm going to now attach all 3 agreements over here. So I'll go into files. Nope, not this one. Contoso. You've got Tailwind. And Wide World. Right. Hopefully it doesn't struggle with generating the draft. There we go. Right. So as expected, it has generated a comparison. It provided some introduction on the purpose of this document and why is it happening. So as the sales manager, it's crucial to evaluate and compare. Sure. We've got the comparison of different supplier agreements. So we've got the different terms extracted from each supplier agreement. And now it's recommendations for contract renewals. So how can we make the Contoso supplier agreement more favorable? We can, example, negotiate a higher early payment discount to encourage timely payments, consider increasing the minimum order amount to ensure consistent sales volume. And these are actually quite solid recommendations. For Tailwind traders, we can reevaluate the long automatic renewal and negotiate for a shorter renewal. Okay, so we're trying to negotiate for a shorter renewal period just to be able to have this more flexibility and more frequency in reviewing the contracts between us. So these are solid recommendations. All right, now let's say I would like to expand on this and maybe say add a recommendation section on which agreement seems the most favorable as it is. So without any enhancements, without any negotiations, which agreement is the best as it stands. Okay, so it's going to generate the same content. Recommend. Yeah, we've got a recommendation for the favorable terms. We already had that previously, and now it's recommending which one is the most favorable. It has mentioned that Tailwind traders appears to be the most favorable, and it supplies the reasons after that. So it supports it with evidence as well. So I can look into the logic and I can critique the logic. I can give Copilot better information on how to evaluate the agreements, and then we can reach a better decision. All right, so that is done. By the way, we're not going, so for the executive and the sales use cases so far, we didn't go through each executive and sales use case. So I highly recommend going into the course on Microsoft Learn and testing things out for yourself. Right. All right, heading on to IT. Let's create a project plan for a new network security product. Okay, so let's go over here. All right, so we're gonna use Word for that. Actually, let's use okay. So let's go into the Teams Copilot chat and let's use the the web. Let's say this is not, I'm not referencing any documents from my OneDrive or SharePoint or anything. I would like to create a project plan for installing a new network security product into a corporate network. And I would like to base this plan on IT industry guidelines for installing network security products. Now, doing that from the work pane is absolutely fine. I can still do it, but be that as it may, since I'm not using any corporate data in generating the project plan, then I'm better off using the web, just to make sure that no context from my Microsoft 365 data is being added or polluting the content that's being generated. All right, so we can see here that the plan is being generated to install this piece of software. We can see there's a project initiation phase, then gathering the requirements, planning and design, implementation, installation, monitoring and optimization, then the documentation, maintenance, and support. So I can actually use this. I can take it, I can copy paste it. I can use it as a way to generate a PowerPoint presentation. I can use it to create a new workspace within Loop, to be able to collaborate with other team members on it, and I can start building tangible deliverables out of this blueprint that I've just created. Let's say I'd like to add a few sections here, and I'm going to keep on using the sample prompts. Right, so I'm going to say, well, that was a good start. I feel like it's missing important areas, and I would like to add the following items. So testing, quality assurance, training, communication, document reporting. So all of these different risk assessment, mitigation, etc. All of these different components, I would like to add these to the my project plan that's been generated here. All right, so let's try to identify the sections that were added. All right, so we've got the project timeline, risk assessment and mitigation, etc. All right, so that's all super great. Now here, let me, what's it called again? Sentinel, let's see. CipherGuard, there we go. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so I'm gonna upload that for it over here, and you'll see that I cannot reference or anything, so I'll just paste this prompt over here. I'll say this version looks better. Please review the attached file, which is a product specification for a specific product. And I'm going to ask it to update the project plan with information from this product specification file. So I'm going to go to OneDrive. Can I access OneDrive from here? I should be. Okay, I think it's me as connected to a different OneDrive. So let me just get that downloaded over here. So I'll download the file locally and then upload it onto the Microsoft here, the Copilot window. So I'll upload that. It's uploading and click generate. All right, so it has reviewed the product specifications and it has added, I believe, the way we'll see it most eminent is in the installation and configuration. So we'll say install the Contoso CipherGuard. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we go. Install the Contoso CipherGuard customer security policy. So it's basing also on data from the product specification sheet over here. So we've got the key features, technical specifications, etc. And it's getting inspired by this implementation plan. So if we see over here, the maintenance support section, for example, if you go here, Support plan, develop an incident response plan for potential security breaches, right? And it has included product-specific details from the sheet as well, the specification sheet. Okay, any questions?
Karim, just for my understanding, when you use the web option, if you attach a document that is in your Microsoft 365 OneDrive, is going to be this document going to the public one, or it will still remain private in your as your company
It's
document?
going to be public.
Yes, if you select the web option, you are making it here the comparison.
No. So that's yeah, that's absolutely not the case. So all of the conversation that is happening with Copilot, so it's not being accessed by anyone else. It's still happening within my Microsoft 365
even if you select
subscription. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect,
Absolutely. This is
thank
not
you.
like a public hub where we can use Copilot, everyone collectively all together, and have access to these different files. But it's the same concept of the Copilot system. So just as Copilot within my tenant or the work panel over here, just the same way that it only uses my data to enhance its prompt and then sends the prompt to a private Azure OpenAI instance, which has the base model. The same thing is happening here, except that I am able to also upload files from my local device, right?
Thank you very much.
So yeah, you're welcome. So this attachment again is being used for context, and it's being used to enhance my prompt and do some grounding for the prompt, and then that prompt is what's sent to the Azure OpenAI instance, and that communication as well, that sending and receiving to the OpenAI instance is also happening privately, and nothing is on the public web. Okay. Right. Yeah, let's I think that's good for Word. Let's skip this one. Just want to be able to see different exercises. All right, let's analyze market trend spreadsheet using Copilot in Excel. So let's say we are in now we're in marketing, assuming the role of the marketeer. All right, so we've got this Excel sheet over here. Right, so yeah, we've got this Excel sheet of different market trends for a product. We've got different types of products. So we've got the artisanal chai and pre-made chai, and we've got information such as social media views, online searches, and engagement rates. So over here, I can use Copilot to help me analyze the trends available in this sheet. So as soon as I open the Copilot window, I'll see some suggested prompts that I can start with. I can also see some more over here. Let me say I'll choose Show Data Insights. And what that does is it understands the relationships between the different components in the Excel sheet, the different columns, and starts drawing up these relationships in the form of visual aids. So we can see here, it has created the engagement rate by date. So it's mapping out the different engagement rates by the date outlined. So we can see here the data inside shows the average engagement rate by date. And then it's mentioning each date what is happening as an example. Now I can expand over here. You see get deeper analysis results using Python. And what that will do is it will create a Python script that is going to run through this comma separated values and extract deeper insights using Python, but we're not going to do that. Let's add all insights to grid. So now all of the insights and relationships that Copilot can draw from the Excel sheet, it's going to formulate and represent in this sheet over here using pivot tables, of course. So now Yeah, so now I've got all of these different relationships, and we can see that social media engagement by date, and it has an outlier on the 30th of July. So I can go back to the sheet and see what happened on the 30th of July. Why did we have such a high social media engagement views? And then maybe we can look into our marketing campaigns. Was there something specific that became trendy? Was there a campaign launch that was a huge success? And we can start diving deeper into the behind the scenes of the values that we see. Right. Let's say we're happy with that. Sure, we can suggest a formula column just as an extra KPI over here. So I can suggest a formula column that ties using a formula between two different values and tries to create a relationship between them. So here we've got the formula column suggested here is the average chai sales. So the average number of sales by taking the mean of total artisanal and pre-made chai sales for each date. Not sure how mathematically accurate that is, but if it's useful, I can use it. Yeah, it's just the same number for all values because it's taking the total for all the values. Not very helpful. Yeah, so you'll see that I can have a conversation. I can critique Copilot's logic through that and ask it to change to find a different meaningful value that it can suggest. So I don't just I shouldn't just take everything Copilot says for granted. Sometimes it's just not good enough. Right. Yeah. So for this example, it's the same kind of similar strategy to what we used already in Loop to create a marketing campaign to brainstorm ideas with Copilot and to create different marketing ideas for a specific campaign on Loop so that team members can collaborate on. Again, we're not going through all the use cases, so please you can go through the Microsoft Learn course and try the use cases out for yourself and try to imagine creating different scenarios within the same disciplines. Right. Sure, let's create a financial. So we just did Excel, let's not repeat that, and create a financial analysis report. So let me clean things up a bit. Right, so sure, let's go to finance. There we go. I think we've got this. Okay. We've got this over here. All right. So here we've got different data for marketing campaigns. So we've got campaign owner, the name of the campaign, when was it launched, the type, was it, whether it's digital marketing or brand marketing or customer experience, budget, revenues, and then KPIs such as total users targeted, engaged users, ROI, etc. Right. So I'm going to the same way I used the income statement to create a speech. I'm going to use this marketing campaign data to create a financial report. Okay. So I'm going to use this sample over here. I'm the director of finance for Fabricam, create a Q1 marketing campaign analysis based on the attached file. And I'm going to ask it to include executive summary, data analysis, and recommendation sections. So let me come over here, browse my files. And choose this one. Hit generate. There we go. So on the same technique or format that we saw before in the executive example. It's going from very raw numbers in a table format with different values. We see graphs and pivot tables, which Copilot is able to outline. This was even probably created by Copilot in the first place. But we can see here it's including the sections that I mentioned, an ROI section, and with the different campaign types and outlining different ROIs, user engagement, and recommendations section. I can even ask it to add a section on lessons learned and how can we enhance this type of campaigns, how can we do better. So the conversation doesn't have to stop there. I can keep the conversation going and iterate with Copilot more and more. Right, let's say I'm happy with that, and we head on to HR. All right, okay, I'm gonna skip the first one, which is just a prerequisite exercise. Let's say where I started with a document with all the roles and responsibilities for the design team that I have in my organization. And I use that to draft a job description using Copilot in Word. But I'm more interested in the second use case. I then used this description on using Copilot, and I used it as a baseline reference and compared multiple resumes with it in order to be able to evaluate the different candidates that we received for the specific position. Right, let's clean things up. Back HR. Right, so I've got this. So I've got this design team responsibilities, and I've used that to create a job description profile for the position. So now I'm going to create a blank document. I'm going to use the sample prompt over here. Let me get that. Okay, there we go. So in this example, we're a hiring manager, and we have a new opening within the design team for a senior animation designer. And we'd like to use the job description document as a baseline reference and then compare multiple resumes with it to evaluate the candidates and maybe rate them later on. So let me reference the files over here. Okay. Sorry if there's a loud noise of beeping. Someone's car is going insane in the parking. So I've referenced the job description. Now I'm going to reference all the other resumes. Now we can expect sometimes from Copilot, once we start referencing multiple files, multiple references, or when the ask that we're trying to achieve using Copilot is too big, we can expect it to fail a few times. It doesn't actually fail when generating the content, but it fails when trying to present it in whatever application that we're working with. So it's not a matter of generating, it's a matter of actually displaying what has been generated. That's where sometimes some hitches happen to Copilot. All right, we got the last one over here, and we want to click generate. Hopefully works for the first time. All right, great. Okay, so we see here an introduction of the task that we're having at hand. And then we have candidate comparisons between, so we've got Patty, Nestor, Alex, Wilbur, and we see a responsibilities match section. So how much matching has does this person or resume have with the original job description? And then we've got a recommendation in the end that Patty stands out as the most qualified candidate. Now, let's say I would like to, over here. Oh, no, sorry. I'd like to maybe include a section for each user on interview questions that we can ask each of them. So now I'm thinking ahead on the interview process, and I want to include for each person, I want to include a section with some proposed interview questions that we can ask. So here we can say, describe a project where you led an animation team. What challenges did you face? So here I'm challenging Patty's assumed or declared leadership skills that she mentioned in her resume, and I would like to know more about projects where she was the leader, etc., etc. There you have it. Different interview questions, and in the end, Patty is the one that takes the gold. Right, I'm gonna keep this. Yeah, have we got any questions so far regarding the use cases that we just saw? Any other questions? Anything else that you'd like to point out? By the way, all these use cases are within the Microsoft Learn training. I've dropped the link in chat, so feel free to go through it. There are even a few ones that we skipped here. I think operations and the challenge use case. So feel free to do that on your own. Right. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you so much for being a great audience. Thank you for your time, for joining us today. I really enjoyed this session. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it. Only two things left for us to do as usual. First thing would be to claim your Microsoft certificate. Yes, do we have a question, or I see you raise hand? Okay, applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we're gonna claim your Microsoft certificate for this training on Microsoft Learn, and I think it's titled "Empower Your Workforce with Microsoft 365 Copilot Use Cases." So the way we're gonna do that is through this code over here. Let me just make sure that I've got the right code. Okay, I'll make sure of that in a second. And the second thing would be to conduct a short feedback form. Feedback really helps us and really helps me to gauge what works for people. If there's something that worked really well for you, something that you particularly enjoyed, feel free to mention it. If there's something that you feel we could do better, something that I can do better, please feel free to mention it in the feedback form as well. I've left my name for you there, Karim Abdelhamid. And if you are unfamiliar, I'm gonna walk you through the process of claiming your certificate and then saving it as PDF or sharing it online or printing it or any other thing you might want to do with it. So the first step would be to log into learn.microsoft.com and then go to profile. Over here top right, then go to profile, and then on the, if you scroll down a bit, you'll see on the left side achievements. Click on that and click your redeem your code now, and this is where you would paste the code that's over here. So you paste that here and click redeem, and once that is done, you receive a bunch of badges for each module in the course. And if you go to courses, you will see this certificate right over here. You can then click on the little printer icon and you can print it. You can save it as a PDF. You can share it online, whatever it is that you actually need. Okay, so I'll be dropping the instructions along with the links as well. Actually, let me do that right now. Never to say editing notes. Okay. You can use the time while I get the link for claiming the certificate. Please feel free to use the time to scan the feedback form QR code and fill out the feedback form for us. First, drop the instructions in chat. All right, so I've dropped the instructions in the chat for claiming the certificate and a link as well. Right. Yeah, that's the one. Keep dropping the link for claiming the certificate right now, and the link for the feedback form as well. And that's it for today. So thank you, everyone. You can feel free, if you're done with these 2 tasks, then feel free to drop from the meeting if you'd like. Thank you very much. This has been wonderful. I'll be hanging around for a bit. Thank you. Thank you very much. My pleasure. I'll hang around for a bit. If someone has any questions, I'll leave the feedback form QR code for everyone. I've also dropped the feedback form link and the claiming your certificate link and claiming your certificate instructions in different steps. So please, if you face any issues, I'll hang around for a bit. Please feel free to ask us. All right. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be hanging around for quite some time, so please feel free to come off mute if you have any questions or drop your question in chat. My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good one.